Welcome to Essentials of Acute Care. I am Dr. Sunil Garg. In our series on shock, in part 5th, we will discuss initial management of shock patients. Just with any other critically ill patient, here aim is to stabilize airway and breathing and secure intravenous access. Intravenous fluid administration should not be delayed just because of the clinical assessment or the presence of heart failure or kidney injury. Patients should be intubated if they are in respiratory distress or if they have marked hemodynamic instability. Exception to intubation include those patients where shock condition is because of the suspected tension pneumothorax. If patients are intubated, rapid sequence intubation is a preferred approach, and agents that worsen the hypotension should be avoided during intubation. Peripheral venous access should be obtained, and if not available, obtain the intraosseous access. Central venous access should be obtained when peripheral access cannot be obtained. If patient needs large amount of volume in the form of intravenous fluid or blood product, patient needs prolonged infusion of vasopressors, frequent blood sampling, or hemodynamic monitoring. Administration of the intravenous fluids or medication should not be delayed just because patient does not have central venous line. Here it is important to understand that intravenous vasoactive medications can be given safely through peripheral venous line. Hemodynamic support is given to suspected shock patients when they are hypotensive or when they have clinical or the laboratory evidence of hypoperfusion in the form of altered mental status, cool and clammy skin, elevated lactate value, or diminished urine output. It is given through use of vasopressor medications and intravenous fluids. Here aim is to maintain the mean arterial pressure greater than 65 to 70. IV fluids are first-line agents in the treatment of patients with undifferentiated hypotension and shock. How intravenous fluids should be administered and what are the endpoints of resuscitation? It should be administered in well-defined boluses of 500 to 1000 ml, and the endpoint of resuscitation includes until blood pressure and tissue perfusion are acceptable, or if patient develops pulmonary edema or intra-abdominal hypertension, or when the fluid fails to augment the perfusion. The total volume infused is determined by the etiology of shock. Means if the patient has cardiogenic shock or the right ventricular infarction or septic shock or hypovolemic shock, the requirement can be different. Most patients are treated with crystalloids, which includes ringer lactate or normal saline, but those with the hemorrhagic shock should be preferentially treated with the blood and the blood products. Regarding use of vasopressors, these agents are frequently used in undifferentiated shock to restore the tissue perfusion. But these agents are avoided in hypovolemic or hemorrhagic shock, at least initially. But if they are used, norepinephrine is the preferred agent, and if inotropic agent is required, dobutamine is the choice. These are the conditions which leads to shock state and require specific intervention which are life-saving in nature, and we will discuss them one by one. Anaphylactic shock as a diagnosis of shock is made when one of these features are present, which includes presence of inspiratory stridor, oral and facial edema, hives, or the history of recent exposure to common allergens. Intramuscular epinephrine is the drug of the choice, and other treatment includes administration of antihistaminics and the steroids. Blood for tryptase or histamine should be drawn as a part of workup. Diagnosis of tension pneumothorax is made in a patient when the patient has unilateral pleuritic chest pain and diminished breath sounds, the presence of distended neck veins, and tracheal deviation away from the affected side in a patient who has risk factor for the tension pneumothorax like the presence of trauma, history of recent procedures, presence of mechanical ventilation, or the underlying cystic lung disease. If the tension pneumothorax is strongly suspected, chest radiography is not required and patient should have an emergent tube thoracostomy or the needle decompression. If the patient undergoes needle decompression, it should be followed immediately by the immediate tube thoracostomy. Ultrasound guidance is preferable for both diagnosis and tube placement, and it is advisable to drain tension pneumothorax before endotracheal tube intubation unless patient is in cardiac arrest. Pericardial tamponade as a diagnosis of shock is suspected in those patients who present with elevated JVP, distant heart sounds, and pulsus paradoxus, and these patients usually have one of the known risk factors, which includes trauma, bleeding diathesis, or they are known patients of pericardial effusion, or those who has undergone recent thoracic or pericardial procedure. Bedside echocardiography is used for the diagnosis and the presence of anechoic strip and tamponade physiology on point of care. Echocardiography confirms the diagnosis. Pericardiocentesis should not be attempted in patients with a pericardial effusion due to aortic dissection or myocardial rupture, as relief of the cardiac tamponade in such patients worsens the bleeding and such patients need emergent surgical intervention. The most likely cause of shock in trauma patient is hemorrhage, and fast scanning should be done in such patients, and positive study indicates the need for surgical exploration to identify and control the source of hemorrhage. Hemorrhagic shock may be of non-traumatic origin, and the main causes include bleeding from the vascular structure or from the gastrointestinal tract. The diagnosis of the vascular cause may be suspected based on the history of abdominal, chest, or back pain, or the known history of aneurysm or dissection, and the diagnosis can be confirmed by CT scan or by abdominal ultrasound or transesophageal echocardiography. And for patients with manifestations of the upper or lower GI bleeding based on the history of hematemesis, hematochezia, anemia, or any history of bleeding diathesis, endoscopic intervention or the CT scan can be done to make the diagnosis. Large volume of the blood product are required for such patients, and vasopressors are usually avoided in such patients. Arrhythmia can be the primary reason of shock or it may be contributory to shock, but in both situations it should be immediately treated, and if it is tachyarrhythmia, it should be cardioverted, and if it is bradyarrhythmia, patient should receive atropine or the infusion of vasoactive agents, or patient may require pacemaker placement. Arrhythmia can be primary or arrhythmia can be associated with the metabolic disturbances like the presence of hypokalemia or acidosis. Arrhythmia may be because of underlying cause of the shock state, like it can be caused by the sepsis, pulmonary embolism, or myocardial infarction. So this is a reason that whenever the arrhythmia is present, patient should be thoroughly investigated by serum chemistry, arterial blood gas analysis, toxicology, screen, cardiac ultrasound, and cultures whenever there is suspicion of infection. The presence of fever in a shock patient suggests the possibility of septic shock. The early administration of intravenous antibiotic, intravenous fluid resuscitation, and the source control are the important part of therapy. All relevant cultures should be obtained and all relevant imaging should be done. The serial vital signs and the serum lactate measures can be used to risk stratify the septic patient. The typical history of patient with cardiogenic shock due to MI is one of the chest pain, and patient may be in respiratory distress. The diagnosis is made on the basis of history, serial ECG changes, serial cardiac enzymes changes, and the echocardiographic findings. The intervention include administration of pharmacological agents in the form of antiplatelet agents and heparin and the coronary revascularization procedure. Other than myocardial infarction, cardiogenic shock may occur in valvular insufficiency. Such situations are usually acute in nature and require surgical intervention. Acute MR and the ventricular septal defect usually occurs in the setting of myocardial infarction, while acute aortic regurgitations occurs in the setting of aortic dissection or aortic root abscess. Other than echocardiography, CT chest is required for aortic dissection, while the blood culture and transesophageal echocardiography is required for the diagnosis of aortic root abscess. The patients of dissection of ascending aorta usually present in hypertension, and their manifestations include tearing chest or back pain. However, such patients may present in hypotension and shock state. There are multiple reasons to it, and usually it includes the presence of acute aortic insufficiency, presence of pericardial tamponade, or the presence of myocardial infarction. Only hemodynamically significant pulmonary embolism causes shock state, and such patients present in hypotension with acute dyspnea and the presence of hypoxemia. The diagnosis is supported by normal chest radiograph, elevated value of D-dimer, troponin, and natriuretic peptide. While the CT pulmonary angiography is a modality of choice for diagnosis, presumptive diagnosis can be obtained with point-of-care ultrasonography, and there may be presence of right ventricular enlargement or thrombus in point-of-care ultrasonography. And this is a reason to justify the administration of thrombolytic agent in such patients, those who are hemodynamically unstable, provided there is no contraindication to thrombolytic therapy. Another important but underdiagnosed cause of shock include adrenal crisis, where the patient is volume depleted and there is history of glucocorticoid deficiency or withdrawal. Such patients should be judiciously fluid resuscitated and dexamethasone should be given 4 mg intravenously. Another important cause include insect or animal bites where antivenom is required to reverse the shock state. Thanks for your attention. Hope you like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any feedback, suggestion or comments, please write down in the comment section box. Once again, thanks for watching this video.